Okay, so let's talk about views and let's talk about styles. I'm gonna go to my project. I'm gonna delete everything else. I'm gonna delete style sheet as well, and I'm gonna leave the view and the text. And inside, I'm just gonna delete this and this. I'm gonna get rid of this, and we're gonna do everything again. We're gonna start again. So by default, when you want to, of course, add something to the screen or some code, you always gonna end up using the view component. So think of the view component like a div with a class of container if you come from web, where you're gonna wrap all your code inside of there just to keep the stylings or to center everything on the screen. So the view is what wraps whatever code you're gonna put inside, and of course then React Native will grab that view and convert it to something that the device can understand. So again, think of the view like a div with a class of wrapper or container. So of course, if I want to start doing something, I need to bring and wrap everything inside of the view component. That's the main thing. Now, for example, if I want to render some text, you cannot do something like this. This is not going to work. So let me just reload it. You're going to get an error. And the errors are, they make sense. That's pretty cool. So if you want to add some text, you will need to import at the top and use the component text. And everything you put inside, hello guys, for example, is going to work. All right, now I'm going to reload the page and I'm going to get a black screen. Don't panic. This is correct, right? You should be getting a black screen. I'm going to explain you why in a couple minutes. Now the thing is that, for example, I want to render some text right here, and this is cool, but they will be rendered inside of a single view. What happens if I want to get more views inside? Of course, you can totally do this. You can put as many views you want. And this, again, works like a div with a class of container. You can put as much containers as you want in your application. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to put maybe 3, and I'm just going to delete it. All right. Now, I'm going to give you the some heads up with this. I'm pretty sure that you're getting a black screen. And this is actually normal. Now, React Native does not understand CSS. Not really. What it does is going to grab an object like the one we had at the bottom previously. It's going to grab that object that looks like CSS. It will convert that code, that object, into something that the device can understand for stylings. Now, one of the things that we need to do pretty much every time is give some style to the view that wraps the whole content. So on the browser, for example, when we put a div, that doesn't matter. It's going to render whatever we have inside. Now with the in the device right here in React Native, it's a little bit different. We need to tell the view which properties it's going to need to render the content we have inside. So that's why we get nothing. It's because it's like with a height of 0%, and we get nothing. We get a black screen. Nothing is showing. So we need a way to tell the application that this view has a size, and in the size we have some other components. And of course, this we need to add some styles, right? The thing is that view, or actually any component in React Native, cannot understand floats or some different values. So if I wanted to add some floats, for example, we are not going to be able to do it. Just like we do for web. So what React Native use is going to be Flex. Maybe you know Flexbox from the browser, from your developer as a web developer life. Well, we're going to use Flex in this case, which is a little bit different from Flexbox. Flexbox is going to be for web, but Flex follows pretty much the same CSS rules we would follow with Flexbox. So we follow the same patterns. Don't worry, we're gonna do pretty much everything together. Don't worry. So in order to get something on the screen, we need to tell the application that the main parent view needs some stylings, right? Okay. So we have 2 ways pretty much to add stylings inside our application. The first one is going to be the inline styling. The other one we had right here at the bottom. Remember, when we started this, we had kind of a different, like a class, for example. We can still do this, but you also get the style, the inline styles, and this again works just like a div for web. So I'm going to say style, and if I open the right here the keys, nothing's going to happen. This one, of course, accepts a value. Could be true, could be Boolean, could be whatever. But to add CSS, we need to pass an object. Now the object, of course, it's going to take the styles we want to add. In this case, I'm going to say that I want a background color. And again, we need to use all in camel case. This will not work. So I'm going to say background color. I'm going to say, okay, this one is going to be red. I'm going to do comma, and I'm going to add a width. We can still use width. I've got a web link to give you in a few minutes, which is a style sheet of all the properties we can use. But that's okay. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to reload the application. Okay. So I reload the application, and for iOS, it's a little bit weird because we get this weird thing at the top. So if I maybe go right here and I add a margin, and I add margin top, let's say I want to add, I don't know, 50 pixels. And I'm going to show you something. I'm going to reload the application, and we get an error message. So it says JSON value 50 pixels. Its type of NS cannot be converted to, whatever. The thing is that we cannot use pixels, and it's because each phone has a device has kind of a ratio for unit measures. So we cannot really use pixels. This works for web, not going to work here. So there's two things you can do. You can use something like this with percentages, maybe let's say 10%, and we reload, and that it's going to take it. That works. Or you can use, I don't know, pixels, something like that. I'm sorry, a number. And this will be translated to whatever unit the phone it's really using. So if I do reload it again, we get something a little bit better. And okay, so I'm going to do some padding at the top. I'm going to do padding top 50. So you can still do this. It's a little bit better. Now, of course, in real life, you're not going to use inline stylings just like this, because you will need to add a lot of styles. And after a while, if you add styles on all the tags, it's going to get a little bit confusing. So what we do, we get the way to, of course, use stylings as an import. So not as an import, but right here on this component, on a variable. So you need to import style sheet at the top. So we need to import this component. So what we do, we use a style sheet just like a class. So we need to create a variable called styles, and this is just a variable. Then I'm going to say style sheet, and we need to use the method create. And then this create will take an object. So now instead of putting everything just here, we can define maybe the name of an ID, or an ID in theory, or a class, and say main view open and close. If I use this actually works like a class. If I copy main view and put it on different components, it's still going to work. So on the main view, I'm going to pretty much do the same thing I'm doing here. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to leave it just with an empty object. So the main view will have some padding top of, I don't know, 50 pixels. I'm going to do comma, again, the same background color of red, and still going to say red. Sorry. I'm going to do comma, and then again, we're going to get some width of 100%. So I'm going to save the application, and of course, if we reload it, nothing happens. This is not going to work. We are passing an empty object. So the way we do this, we need to tell the application that now we want to pass an access to styles, and we want to put whatever it's inside the main view. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to save it, and if I reload again, we get the same result, right? Really cool. Now, maybe you noticed, but we are, of course, putting this content inside this view, and we get just this, and everything else is just black. And this is because this view, this main view, it's acting as a container. So it's only showing what's inside, you know? So again, right here, we need to use flex. Okay, so I'm gonna go here and delete maybe this. I'm gonna unset this. Let me just delete it. And I'm gonna start over. So whenever you want to return a component or render the main container of whatever code you have right here, you will need to use flex. So I'm gonna say flex and I'm gonna say 1. I'm gonna pretty much do the same thing than before. I'm gonna add a padding and then maybe bottom, and I'm still adding those 50 pixels. And now in this case, I'm gonna still do a background color, and this time it's gonna be white. So if I reload the application, now we're gonna get it, you know, we get something better. So instead of padding top, it's padding top, sorry. Instead of padding bottom, padding top. And now we get pretty much the same result, but it's a little bit nicer. So flex, of course, is gonna extend the container to cover the whole screen of the phone. Now, of course, with flex, we get some other properties. So I'm going to do comma and I'm going to say align items, just like this, open and close. So we have different properties with align items. So we can put center, we can put baseline, and we can put flex end or start or stretch. And this will align the contents we have in this container in a horizontal way. So if I do, for example, center, I'm going to save it, reload the application, and it's going to center all the childs that are inside that container, right? So then, of course, we can do it vertically. So if I go right here and say justify, and then content, I'm going to open and close, and we pretty much get the same options, but this is going to happen on the y-axis, vertically. So if I do center again and reload the application, everything's going to be, the middle. Now, of course, you get some other options. I'm going to give you the style sheet, the cheat sheet in a minute. I'm going to do flex, and then I'm going to put everything at the start, and same thing with the vertical axis, the y-axis. I'm going to reload the application, and now it makes a little bit more sense. I'm still going to do the width 100%. All right, I'm going to save it, and we get pretty much the same result. So now, of course, I want to do something else with this, 3 components. I'm going to do it just to 2. So you could, of course, apply the same logic. Let's say I want to add some stylings to this view. Well, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go right here, and we can handle this just like a CSS. I'm going to say basic view. And they're going to pretty much do the same with the other ones. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste. All right. So now, of course, we need to add some logic right here on the CSS, between quotes. I'm going to go and say, okay, now we have a basic view, and the properties are going to be, I don't know, something dumb. Background color of green. I don't know, what else? What else can we put right here? Green, we're going to give it a width of 100%. I'm going to do comma, and maybe a margin bottom. So yeah, margin and then bottom. And instead of giving a percentage, I'm going to say just 5. Now we reload the application. All right, so that's okay. We get something a little bit better. Now, if we say background green, or if I say color, for example, let me do color, and I'm going to do white. We know that this one is for the fonts, right? For the color of the text. If I reload the application, notice that the color is still white. So this does not work like web. It will not inherit from the parent the color of the text, the color of the font. We still need to pass a class or a rule to the actual component. So I'm going to go to text, and I'm going to say that this one is going to be the basic and text. Basic text, and again. So I'm going to go at the bottom, and again, something dumb. I'm going to open and close. And this one, we can still do font size. Remember that everything is in camel case right now. and I'm going to give it a 20. Again, we cannot use pixels. So then I'm going to give it a color, and this one is going to be white. What else? What else can we do? We can do a text align. So text align, just like that. And we're going to center, and I'm going to add some padding. Now, the padding works just like for web. If you do padding top, it will add padding to the top part, bottom, left, and right. If you do padding for all, it's going to add a padding for all. So I'm going to save it, and if I reload it, ugly, but we get something a little bit better. And for Android, it's pretty much the same idea. So if I double tap, we still get it. Now, the problem is that for iOS, some devices, since you need to kind of move this from the navbar, and that's not going to work for Android. Maybe for Android, we don't want to, add this space. Later, we're going to see how we can add some styles for some, for different devices. Maybe show this on iOS, but not show this on Android. Don't add this space on Android. But again, we are not there yet. We're going to get there in a minute. Okay. So I'm gonna let me just give me 1 minute. I'm gonna give you the link, so we can check the cheat sheet for Flex and pretty much all the properties with stylings inside React Native. Just 1 second. Okay, so I'm gonna look it on the web. So I'm gonna say cheat and then React Native. You can look it up. So when you go right here, you get React Native styling cheat sheet, and this is actually really useful, and you get something for Wix, but this one is the one we know. So they have a GIF, really funny GIF. You can do it. So you get the contents are the rules that we have available for using Flexbox, and then different types of transforms and some other components. Now in React Native, you can add stylings to the components, but not all components inside React Native will support the style property. You can do it to some of the components, and they tell you right here where you can use it. You can use it on view, you can use it on text, and later we're going to talk about these components. So remember that not all components allow the style property. They have their own stylings, and you need to modify the style on a different way. But again, we will get there. All right, so let's go to the next section. We're going to talk about